Emily Davenport adjusted the midnight blue napkin, her trembling fingers aligning the embossed initials, ENJ, against the marble bar. The penthouse glittered with chandeliers and Central Park views, yet she felt invisible at her own engagement party. Jake, her fiancé, was too busy charming investors to notice her. When she asked about the toast, he brushed her off. Guests praised the event, but not her. Sophia Lancaster, an investor in a crimson gown, praised the party, then murmured about the Castellano connection, a comment that left Emily uneasy. Jake's laughter across the room stung. He hadn't acknowledged her all night. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. During his toast, Jake thanked everyone for celebrating this exciting next chapter with me, correcting himself awkwardly to include her. Emily stood beside him, smiling through humiliation as he spoke only of company expansion, not love. Outside, seeking air, Emily met Adrian Cross, a confident stranger who told her quietly, "You deserve better than this." He revealed he was Jake's former roommate and warned her that Jake used people, making them disappear into his shadow. When Jake appeared, cold and controlling, demanding she return for photos, Emily hesitated. For the first time, she didn't follow. She stayed on the balcony, the city lights glimmering like freedom. Adrian seemed surprised when Emily stayed on the balcony. "He'll come back," she said quietly. "Angrier next time." "Probably," he replied. "He doesn't like losing control." She crossed her arms. "I don't even know you. You could be lying." "I could be," Adrian said. "But you know I'm not. You felt something was wrong for a while. You've just been afraid to name it." Emily knew he was right. The control, the isolation, the quiet humiliations. Adrian's voice hardened. "Jake did the same to my sister. Manipulated her, blackmailed me, destroyed her life. When I heard he was getting married, I had to warn you." He handed her a card. "Come with me tonight. 1 week away, no expectations. Just space to think." Jake's furious voice shattered the moment. He stormed onto the balcony, grabbing her arm. "You're embarrassing me." "Take your hand off her," Adrian said. Emily pulled free. "Don't." Jake tried to recover, offering charm instead of apology. "Let's do the toast, sweetheart." But Emily saw through it. "I can't do this, Jake. I can't marry you." He called her hysterical. She stood taller. "I'm thinking clearly for the first time." She walked inside, past the whispers, toward freedom and herself. Priya arrived in 15 minutes, still in her court suit, eyes blazing. "Talk," she ordered. "Jake says you've had a breakdown." "I'm leaving," Emily said, throwing clothes into a suitcase. "Tonight. With Adrian Cross. To the Maldives." "The billionaire?" Priya blinked. "Emily, I know, but I can't marry Jake. If I stay, he'll convince me I'm crazy." Emily explained everything. The party, Adrian's warning, Jake's past. Priya listened, typing rapidly. "Adrian Cross," she muttered. "Billionaire hotelier, clean record, supports revenge porn survivors. His story checks out." She looked up. "Jake's trash. I'm not stopping you." Jake's texts pinged nonstop. "You'll regret this. I've invested 3 years in you." Invested, not loved. Then her mother called. "I saw you leave," Diane said softly. "Victor Castellano told me Jake's business is collapsing. He wanted access to Victor, not you." Emily's tears fell. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you needed to see it yourself. Now go, Mija. Figure out who you are without him." After hanging up, Priya handed her documents and hugged her tightly. "Call daily. If you vanish, I call the FBI." Emily left her ring on the dresser with a note. "I need time to think. Don't follow me." At Teterboro, Adrian waited beside a jet. "You came." "I'm sure," Emily said. As Manhattan disappeared below, her phone buzzed one last time. "Come back. I love you." She turned it off. Adrian offered champagne. "You're not trapped," he said. "I know," she whispered. "Tell me about you." He smiled. "A man who builds beauty because he grew up in ugliness." They touched glasses. For the first time in years, Emily felt not fear, but freedom. Emily woke to sunlight and the sound of waves. For a moment, she forgot she was in an overwater bungalow half a world away from home, until memory returned. Adrian, the plane, the impulsive decision. A note on her breakfast tray read, "Take today to settle in. No expectations. I'm in the main residence if you need anything." Adrian. The resort was paradise. Turquoise water, whitewashed decks, orchids and hibiscus in bloom. But beauty couldn't quiet Emily's anxiety. What was she doing here? What would Jake tell everyone? Seeking distraction, she visited the art studio, where she met Isabel, Adrian's sister. Silver blonde, paint-streaked, and intense, Isabel was both disarming and direct. "You're the one who came with my brother," she said. Moments later, she asked, "Did Adrian tell you why he hates Jake Morrison?" Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Emily listened in horror as Isabel recounted how Jake had seduced her years ago, filmed her without consent, then blackmailed Adrian into funding his startup. Adrian paid him off, Isabel said flatly. But the damage was done. When Isabel revealed Jake's current motive, marrying Emily to gain access to Victor Castellano, her mother's powerful employer, everything clicked. "You were his business plan," Isabel said gently. Shaken, Emily confronted Adrian. "How long have you been having me followed?" she demanded. "I was protecting you," he said. "I don't need protection. I need agency," she fired back. "You can't save me from control by controlling me yourself." To her surprise, Adrian didn't argue. "You're right," he said quietly. "I have a savior complex. You're not a second chance to fix my past. You're you." When she asked why he'd really brought her, he admitted, "At first, it was about Jake. Then I met you, and it became about you." Emily steadied herself. "I need space, truth, time. And I need to know I can survive on my own before I even think about being with someone else." Adrian nodded. "Then I'll support you rescuing yourself." But he also warned her. Jake was planning to meet Victor Castellano, lying that the engagement was intact, leveraging her mother's loyalty. Worse, Jake's debts tied him to dangerous people. "What do I do?" she asked. "You decide," Adrian said. "I won't rescue you. I'll help you take back control." For the first time in years, Emily felt the truth settle in her chest. Freedom meant choosing her next move, alone. Emily powered on her phone to a flood of messages, 63 from Jake, frantic and angry. Among them was one from Priya. "Call me immediately." Priya didn't waste time. "Jake's broke, Em. His company's collapsing, and he owes millions to people tied to the Volkov organization, the Russian mob." She sent documents confirming it. "The Castellano merger isn't about love. It's his last chance to stay alive." Emily's stomach twisted. "He's still calling Victor, pretending we're engaged." "I know. Victor called me. I told him the truth," Priya said. "He wasn't happy. Said, that boy made a very expensive mistake. I think he's about to ruin Jake completely." After they hung up, Victor himself called. "Emily, Mija," he said warmly. "You owe Jake nothing. I've known about his debts, but not how he used you and your mother. When you return, we'll discuss your own event company. I invest in talent, not pity. Stay there, remember who you are." When the call ended, Emily cried. For years, she'd felt small, Jake's accessory. Now she saw she'd been valuable all along. The next morning, she joined Isabel in the art studio. Painting felt like breathing for the first time. "That's you," Isabel said, pointing to the bold figure Emily had painted. "The woman you're becoming." Later, Adrian offered to teach her scuba diving. Underwater, surrounded by coral and color, Emily felt weightless and free. But that night, she found a PI report on Adrian's laptop, surveillance updates on Jake and her. "You're still watching me," she confronted. "I was protecting you," he admitted. "I don't need protection. I need trust." Adrian's voice broke. "You're right. I care, but I don't know how to stop controlling." So Emily left, for space, not escape. Alone in her new bungalow, she resolved to stay the week, reclaim her voice, and build a life that was finally hers, whether Adrian was part of it or not. Emily spent 2 days in solitude, and the silence was revelatory. Without Jake's dismissiveness or Adrian's intensity, she could finally hear her own thoughts. She journaled on the beach, wrote lists of things she'd given up during the past 3 years, and video called both Priya and her mother for unfiltered advice. "What do you want, Em?" Priya asked during their longest conversation. Not what Jake wanted. Not what Adrian wants. "What do you want?" The question cracked something open. Emily realized she'd been defining herself through men's perceptions for so long that her own desires had become background noise. She wanted to start her own event planning business, something she'd postponed repeatedly because Jake needed her support for his company. She wanted to create celebrations that felt artistic and personal, not just impressive. She wanted to prove to herself that she had value independent of who loved her. "I want to be someone I'm proud of," Emily told her mother during their call. "Not someone's girlfriend or fiancé or project. Just me." Diane's response was immediate and fierce. "Then be that woman, Mija. Victor has already offered you a business loan. Not because of Jake. Not as charity. Because he's watched you plan flawless events for years and knows you have talent." The revelation that Victor's offer predated the Jake drama shifted something fundamental. She'd assumed any support was pity. Instead, it was recognition of skills she'd been undervaluing. Emily drafted a business plan that night, her fingers flying across her laptop. Davenport events, artistry, and celebration. She outlined her vision, her target market, her competitive advantages. She texted Isabel about collaborating on artistic design elements. She researched permits and insurance and vendor networks. For the first time in years, she felt purpose that belonged entirely to her. When she finally called Adrian, she was clear and centered. They met on the beach at sunset, both careful with the space between them. "I need you to be honest," Emily said. "Are you interested in me or in rescuing someone from Jake? Because I'm not a second chance to save Isabel. I'm Emily, and I need to figure out who that is without a man defining it." Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his expression raw. "Both," he admitted. "I came to your party to stop Jake from destroying another woman. But Emily, when I saw you, your strength despite being diminished, your grace despite being hurt, it stopped being about Jake. It became about you. About wanting to know the woman brave enough to walk away from everything familiar because she knew she deserved more." "That's terrifying," Emily whispered. "I know, and I've been handling it badly, trying to protect you instead of trusting you." Adrian moved closer, his voice intense. "I have genuine feelings for you. But I also recognize I pursued this connection for complicated reasons. I think we need to start over. Really over. Not as rescuer and rescued. As equals." Emily felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm extending my stay another week. But Adrian, we interact as equals or not at all. You give me information and let me make my own decisions. You trust that I can handle my own life. Deal?" Adrian extended his hand formally, and Emily shook it, both of them laughing at the absurdity and necessity of the gesture. That evening, Emily received a call from Victor. Jake's meeting had imploded spectacularly. Victor had confronted him about the manipulation, the lies about Emily's whereabouts, the exploitation of Diane's position. He'd made clear that no legitimate investor in New York would touch Jake's company after Victor's rejection. "The boy tried to threaten me," Victor said, disgust clear in his voice. "Said I'd regret not supporting him. I informed him that threatening me was perhaps the least intelligent decision of his very poor decision-making career." Emily felt a strange mix of vindication and concern. Jake, desperate and cornered, was more dangerous than ever. But that wasn't her problem to solve. She'd spent 3 years managing Jake's emotions and consequences. "Not anymore. Thank you for protecting my mother," Emily said, "and for seeing my worth before I could see it myself. Mija, you always had worth. You just needed to stop looking through that pendejo's eyes to see it." Back in New York, Jake sat in his apartment surrounded by rejection letters and past due notices. Sophia had disappeared the moment his prospects dimmed. His investors were calling in loans. The Volkov organization had sent a pointed reminder about payment deadlines. He booked a flight to the Maldives with shaking hands. If Victor wouldn't help him, he'd force Emily to. She owed him. After everything he'd invested in her, she owed him. Jake arrived at Adrian's resort like a hurricane made flesh. Emily was underwater, photographing a school of parrotfish, blissfully unaware until she surfaced to chaos. Security surrounded a disheveled man arguing at the main reception, his voice carrying across the beach. Jake, unshaven and wild-eyed, demanding to see his fiancé. Emily's blood turned to ice, then fire. She climbed out of the water, pulled off her dive gear, and walked toward the commotion with her chin high. Adrian appeared from nowhere, positioned to intervene, but Emily caught his eye and shook her head. This was hers to handle. "Jake!" Her voice cut through his tirade. "What are you doing here?" He spun toward her, his expression cycling through relief, anger, and calculation. "Emily, thank God. I've been worried sick. We need to talk. Privately. No. The word felt powerful on her tongue. Anything you have to say, you can say here. Jake's mask of concern slipped. Don't do this. Don't embarrass us both in public. I'm not embarrassed. Are you? Isabel appeared then, standing beside Emily in solidarity. Jake's face went white. You? What are you? Hello, Jake. Isabel's voice was steady, nothing like the broken girl from 10 years ago. Surprised to see me functional? Disappointed I survived? I don't know what lies my brother has been telling you. Jake started, but Emily interrupted. He told me about the video, the blackmail, the threats, about how you destroyed Isabel's trust and Adrian's bank account. Emily pulled out her phone, showing documents Priya had sent. He also told me about your debts. $7 million to some very unpleasant people. About your failing company. About how you needed the Castellano merger to save yourself, and you thought marrying me was your access code. Jake's expression turned ugly. So what? You think you're some prize? You were nothing before me. A mediocre event planner whose biggest client was her mommy's boss. I made you relevant. I gave you access to society. I invested 3 years in building you into someone people would notice. The words should have hurt. A week ago, they would have devastated her. Instead, Emily felt clarity crystallize like ice. You invested in me, she repeated slowly. Like I was stock. A business venture. Not a person you loved, but an asset you acquired. She stepped closer, her voice deadly calm. Well, here's your return on investment, Jake. Nothing. You get nothing. No merger. No access to Victor. No forgiveness. No second chance. Just the consequences of treating people like tools. Jake grabbed her arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. You ungrateful. Adrian moved then, but Emily was faster. She'd spent 3 years learning to read Jake's moods, to anticipate his reactions. She twisted out of his grip with surprising strength, putting distance between them. Touch me again, and security will remove you forcibly, Emily said, her voice not shaking despite her pounding heart. I'm done being someone you manage, manipulate, or control. We're finished. We were always finished. I just didn't see it until you made me invisible at my own engagement party. You'll regret this, Jake spat. I'll destroy your reputation. Tell everyone you abandoned me for a richer man. Make sure no one in New York ever hires you. Tell whatever story you want. Emily's voice was steel. The truth is already spreading. Victor Castellano knows what you are. Priya has documented everything. And Jake? Victor isn't someone you want as an enemy. Neither am I. Jake's face contorted with rage, but Marcus appeared with hotel security. Mr. Morrison, you need to leave. Now. As they escorted Jake away, he shouted threats and accusations. Emily stood firm, Isabel's hand finding hers, Adrian a steady presence behind them both. When Jake finally disappeared, Emily's knees buckled. Adrian caught her, but this time it felt different. Not rescue. Support. The distinction mattered. You were magnificent, Isabel whispered. You took your power back. Emily broke down then, not from regret, but from release. 3 years of tension, of making herself small, of absorbing Jake's casual cruelties. All of it poured out in tears that felt cathartic rather than weak. That night, the 3 of them sat on the beach. Emily, Adrian, and Isabel, talking until dawn. About trauma and healing. About the difference between protecting and controlling. About how the best revenge was becoming someone you were proud of. He'll keep trying, Adrian warned. Men like Jake don't accept loss gracefully. Let him try, Emily said, watching the sunrise paint the sky. I'm not the woman he thought he controlled anymore. After Jake's explosive departure, Emily expected to feel relief. Instead, she felt empty. The peculiar hollowness that comes when you've structured your entire life around someone else's needs and suddenly have space to fill with your own choices. It was terrifying. It was liberating. It was necessary. Adrian gave her room to process, a promise he kept this time. But they began spending time together differently, as equals exploring mutual interests rather than rescuer and rescued. They took cooking classes from the resort's Thai chef, laughing as Emily burned pad Thai and Adrian somehow made worse spring rolls. They went night diving to photograph bioluminescent plankton, the ocean glowing like liquid stars around them. This is what I was missing, Emily said during one dive, her voice distorted through the regulator. Not just beauty, but presence. Being fully in a moment instead of planning the next task on Jake's list. They talked about dreams and fears in ways Emily had never experienced with Jake. Adrian shared his loneliness despite success, how building an empire couldn't fill the void left by his family's rejection. Emily confessed her terror of failure, of discovering she wasn't actually talented without Jake's platform. "You coordinated my wedding," a resort guest told Emily one afternoon. 3 years ago in Manhattan. "It was the most beautiful day of my life, and you made it seamless. I've recommended you to everyone I know." The comment stunned Emily. She'd been valuable all along. She just hadn't been seeing through her own eyes. Marcus and his wife Jennifer arrived with their 2 children, normalizing Adrian's world in ways that helped Emily see beyond the billionaire mystique. She watched Adrian build sandcastles with Marcus's daughter, his laugh genuine and unguarded. Watched him listen to Marcus's son talk about soccer with complete attention. "You're good for him," Jennifer told Emily during a walk. "He's been isolated since Isabel's incident, treating relationships like risks rather than opportunities. You're the first woman I've seen him be vulnerable with." "I'm not trying to fix him," Emily said carefully. "Good. Don't. Just be yourself. That's enough." Jennifer squeezed her hand. "But Emily, do your own healing too. Don't jump from one relationship into another without figuring out who you are alone." The advice resonated. Emily threw herself into planning her business with Isabel's artistic input and Priya's legal guidance via video calls. She created mock event designs, researched venues, drafted contracts. She video chatted with Victor about investment terms, proper business discussion, not charity. "You have vision," Victor told her after she presented her first pitch. "The events you describe aren't just parties. They're experiences. Art. This is valuable, Emily. Own that value." The romance with Emily and Adrian developed slowly, built on honesty rather than crisis. They had their first real date at the resort, dinner on a private sandbar under stars so bright they felt artificial. Adrian shared more about building his business from condemned buildings and stubborn determination. Emily talked about her mother's sacrifice and her own dreams deferred. When they kissed, it was different from anything with Jake. Present, mutual, chosen, not possessive claiming, but shared vulnerability. "I'm falling for you," Adrian admitted, his forehead against hers. "The real you, not the version I imagined rescuing. The woman who challenges me, demands better from me, doesn't let me hide behind protection as control." "I'm falling too," Emily whispered. "But Adrian, I need to go home soon. Build my business on my own terms. Prove to myself I can stand alone before I share space with someone." The admission hurt them both, but Adrian nodded. "I understand. When?" "End of the week. I've been here almost 3 weeks. It's time. Can I visit? In a month, after you're established?" "I'd like that. But Adrian, we're doing this right. Slowly. With honesty and boundaries and space for both of us to be whole people." "Equals," Adrian agreed. They spent the remaining days diving, cooking, talking, and carefully building something that felt sustainable rather than explosive. When Emily packed her bags, she felt ready. Not running away this time, but running towards something. "You're coming back different than you arrived," Isabel said, hugging her goodbye. "Stronger. More yourself. Keep that. Don't let New York make you small again." "I won't. I promise." On the flight home, Emily journaled about the woman she'd become. Not Jake's event coordinator, not Adrian's project, not her mother's obligation or Victor's charity case. Just Emily, brave, capable, learning to take up space without apology. Back in New York, October felt different when you returned as someone new. She moved into a small Brooklyn apartment, affordable but hers, and began untangling 3 years of shared life. With Priya's legal help, she recovered her belongings from Jake's penthouse while he was away. The city buzzed with gossip. She'd abandoned Jake, run off with a billionaire, gone unstable. Sophia Lancaster, now publicly dating Jake, painted Emily as manipulative. But Emily learned to let lies exist without defense. Those who mattered knew the truth. Victor's public support silenced much of the noise. When asked about Jake Morrison at a gala, Victor said evenly, "I invest in character and competence. Mr. Morrison possesses neither." The statement sent shockwaves through Manhattan's elite. Starting Davenport events was brutal. Permits, insurance, cold calls, and rejection tested her confidence. But she persisted, landing her first client through Victor's network, Mrs. Chun, who wanted a meaningful 50th anniversary, not an ostentatious one. Emily proposed an evening that told their love story through food, music, and photographs, with a custom piece by Isabel. Mrs. Chun cried when Jake tried to sabotage her, calling to warn Mrs. Chun that Emily was unstable. The older woman simply replied, "A man who tries to destroy a woman's career because she left him tells me everything I need to know." She doubled Emily's budget. The event was perfect. When the couple danced to their wedding song surrounded by decades of memories, Emily knew she'd created something real. The thank you note came with her payment and 3 referrals. She toasted new beginnings with Priya and Diane in her tiny apartment. Adrian called often, never to fix her problems, but to listen. When she succeeded, his pride was genuine. When she struggled, he guided her back to her own strength. "I miss you," he said one night. "I miss you too," she admitted. "But I needed to prove I could do this alone." "I know. I'll wait until you invite me." Months later, business grew steadily. Isabel's art gave her events a signature style. Victor's network brought new clients, and Emily realized she was profitable. Not rich, but independent. She called Adrian. "I think I'm ready." "For what?" "For you to visit. For us to try this for real." Adrian arrived that Friday, nervous but smiling. "Your place is perfect because it's yours," he said, stepping into her small apartment. They spent the weekend exploring New York as equals: coffee shops, parks, galleries. At Mrs. Chin's anniversary celebration, Adrian watched her orchestrate beauty from chaos. "You're not just planning events," he said softly. "You're honoring people's stories. This is art." Over coffee the next morning, they faced the truth. "You live in Bali." "I'm here," Emily said. "Long distance is hard." "It is," Adrian replied. "But I've spent years avoiding connection. You've made me want to try. I'm asking if you'll figure this out with me. Messy, imperfect, but real." Emily thought of the invisible woman she once was. "I'm willing," she said, "but as equals. You trust me with my challenges. I trust you with yours. No rescue, just partnership." "Deal," Adrian said, raising his mug. "To messy and real." Months passed. They visited each other often, balancing distance with honesty. They fought, reconciled, and grew. Emily hired assistants, partnered with a boutique caterer, and built a reputation for meaningful, artful events. 6 months later, Jake's company collapsed. The Volkov organization's patience ran out, and he fled to Europe. Sophia moved on. Emily felt nothing but relief. A year after the night everything fell apart, Emily stood in Victor's garden at a party she'd planned, her mother's 60th birthday. The evening was intimate and beautiful, honoring a woman who'd given her everything. Victor toasted Diane as family. Isabel's art glowed under the lights. Mrs. Chun chatted warmly nearby. Adrian stood beside Emily, his arm around her waist, present, never possessive. "Happy?" he asked. Emily looked around at the life she'd built, the business, the friends, the peace. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," she said. Leaving Jake wasn't the end. It was the beginning, learning to stay with myself. Adrian smiled. "You taught me that love isn't protection, it's trust." They kissed as the sun dipped low, surrounded by laughter and light. Once, Emily had been invisible at her own engagement party. That humiliation had been a gift. It forced her to see that Jake's neglect wasn't the problem. Her acceptance of it was. Now she stood in the life she'd built with her own hands, surrounded by people who truly saw her. She finally understood the difference between being chosen and choosing yourself. She had chosen herself first. Everything else followed. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.